So we'll go Richard, Carrie, and then Mary. So any questions that I can help you with today, Richard? You're on mute, just so you know.
Is this better?
There, now I can hear you.
I'm good. Thank you very much.
No questions?
No questions right now.
Okay.
Other than I'm amazed at the amount of bonuses you guys give out.
Yes. Yes, we do. We have a lot of years of stuff, so we have a lot that we can give out. So awesome. Carrie and then Mary and then Dusty.
Actually, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
You're an amazing teacher.
Oh, thank you. Mary, any questions?
I'm still processing everything I was trying to say to you earlier. So no,
Okay.
I have,
Okay.
however, made an appointment with my therapist for Friday morning.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll get you guys the link as well to book your one-on-ones with me for next week. Dusty.
Hey, I think for me, it's that I guess I'm just waiting for those symptoms to stop because I'm a chronic like nail picker and cuticle picker,
Yeah.
but I was able to sit with emotions recently, and my nervous system, like I was able to not do what I have done up to this point, right? So I know I'm breaking the cycle. So I guess
Yeah.
I'm just ready for that part to go away.
Yeah.
Pretty
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. So the more space that you get, the more capacity that you get back in your nervous system, the better it's going to be ultimately for you, right?
Yes. I think just with time and practice and doing the work, I'll get there. But
Yeah.
it was just really amazing, like to be able to say, hey, this is the fast track. Like, this is the fast path. Not doing this, just it was very interesting and very cool.
Yeah. So, and that's, I would celebrate that as well. Like oftentimes, when there's like so much more healing to do still, we're like, well, I'm not where I want to be yet. We forget to celebrate like the little wins along the way of like, hey, I didn't engage in this old pattern today, and that's awesome, right? Like we're moving in the right direction, and we can still celebrate that piece.
Very much. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. Anyone wondering, have any questions about how to apply this to your life?
Well, actually, I do have a question.
Okay.
Would you mind reviewing the fast path, slow path?
Yeah.
Is that something you feel comfortable doing, have space to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're both going to be activated at the same time. Okay. So they're both going to be activated by that decrease in cortisol. And then what's going to happen is with the fast path, and I'll give some stories to kind of highlight. The fast path is going to be like the ruminating thoughts. It's basically like our body is trying to pull us back into a negative thought pattern so that we end up getting that cortisol and adrenaline hit. So it might be, you're having a good day, right? You're out for a walk, you're having a good day, and all of a sudden you're like, you can't stop thinking about this old failure, quote unquote failure that you had. And it's like, it just keeps replaying in your mind, like how badly you failed and what a failure you were and blah, 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 blah. It can also look like the worst case scenario thinking. So again, maybe you're having a good day and then you're like, but wait, what if I do put out this, piece of content and then people judge me and they cancel me and then I never make another dollar. I used to go into this worst case scenario thinking of like, what if I never make a sale again? And nobody ever buys from me? and then we end up homeless and living in a box under a bridge. Like that's literally where my brain would go. And you can ask Sid, we would be like out golfing and we'd be having a great day. And then all of a sudden I would spiral into, we're gonna run out of money. We're gonna have no money left and we're gonna be homeless, living in a box under a bridge. Or it can look like intrusive thoughts about like death or dying. So I had a client who, when she first started working with me, she thought about dying every day. Not that she was suicidal, but she was just so unhappy in her life that she didn't want to live that way anymore. Okay. And then we did a whole bunch of healing. And she was like, I don't think about dying at all anymore. Like, I truly want to live my life. I'm so excited to live my life, blah, blah, blah. She lives in California. And she's driving down Pacific Coast Highway one day. So she's got ocean on one side, the sun is shining. She's driving in her Mustang, windows down, wind blowing through her hair. Favorite song comes on the radio. And so she's like bopping along. And then all of a sudden her brain's like, I wonder what would happen if we just drove into this cement barrier right now. And she pulled over and she called me panicked. Like, why am I thinking about dying all of a sudden when like, I'm happy and I'm living my life. Okay. So that's what the fast path looks like. It's like you're in a good place. And then all of a sudden you just get overwhelmed with like negative thought patterns. So that's fast path. The slow path is also activated at the same time, but it's going to take a little bit longer to kick in because now we got to get the hormones being produced and pumping through the body. Okay. So your hypothalamus is going for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, cortisol levels have been up here. And now all of a sudden they've dropped to here. Something is wrong. We need to start producing this, right? We're not hitting our quota. We're not hitting our baseline anymore. Excuse me. So then it'll activate the pituitary gland, which activates the adrenal gland. Since you're in medicine, you may have heard of it referred to as the HPA axis, AXIS. So now we're going to start producing cortisol and adrenaline, right? That starts flowing into the blood. And then when the blood delivers that to the heart, it causes the heart rate to increase. When that blood gets to the eyes, our pupils dilate. When that blood gets to the muscles, we get ready to fight or to run. When that gets to the digestive tract, it's like we got to shut down digestion. So maybe all of a sudden you get like diarrhea or you feel like vomiting if you've just eaten. Okay. So that's the slow path. So when we're in each of these, we want to recognize I've made some positive change. I was just in a positive place. Now I'm getting these intrusive thoughts. That's the fast path. I'm going to come back to my regulation tools, which you've done the challenge before, so you know what they are, but we'll also review them tomorrow. And then, oh, my heart just started racing. Instead of looking for someone to blame this anxiety or this panic on, I'm going to recognize it's because I'm making positive change. My body is freaking out because it's not getting its daily hit of cortisol and adrenaline. So I'm going to come back again to my regulation tools.
Yeah. Kind of like a PTSD, works in the same fashion.
Yeah, similar. Absolutely. The thing about the subconscious mind and the nervous system is it doesn't know the difference between fiction and reality. So if we make up scenarios in our head of something bad happening, our body will respond as though that bad thing is happening. Right? So even just thinking worst case scenario, your body's responding as though that worst case scenario is happening. It also doesn't know the difference between now and the past and now and the future. So if you replay negative events from the past, do you know who Dr. Joe Dispenza is? Okay. So he does a lot of this type of work as well. He has a book called Becoming Supernatural. And in one of the first chapters.
Dispenza?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the first chapter, I think it is, of Becoming Supernatural, he talks about how there was this woman who her husband committed suicide.
Yeah.
I think he like jumped off a bridge or something. Um, and he so she kept replaying for like 10 years. She kept replaying that moment of the police coming to her door telling her that she was now a widow with 3 kids, right? And over the course of 10 years, ended up like developing 10 different autoimmune diseases like fibromyalgia, cancer, all of this stuff, because her body felt like it was living that same situation over and over and over again, right? So if you're replaying a past failure, your body is responding as though it just happened. So maybe in reality, you've only had one failed business or one failed relationship, one bad breakup, one time that, you set a boundary and the person freaked out on you, but you've replayed it in your mind 50 times, that one situation. Your body, if it could talk, would say that you've had 50 or 51.
Here's something that you might find interesting. Surgeons have stimulated the brain when they had the brain open for surgery,
Yeah.
and stimulate particular area. The patient's awake and they recall in detail a distant memory,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
played their movie. So we can trigger these ourselves. So
Yeah.
I'll stop here, but thank you.
Yeah. And so, and then the other thing is that our memories are not concrete, right? Like when we take out a piece of paper and then I shove it back into the pile, it might get like a little bit crinkled, right? And it's the same with the memory. Every time I take it out, I'm painting it with whatever mood I'm in. So if I'm replaying this event in my mind, but I'm in a bad mood, now I'm tainting this with the bad mood and then I'm shoving it back in and I'm pulling it back out. And now I have a ton of fear. Now I'm tainting it with the fear, and then I shove it back in, I pull it back out. Now I have a ton of anxiety, right? So over time, it's like this just gets like totally blown up into a brand new memory. But each time we take it out and we replay it, our body feels like it's reliving it. So like I said, maybe you've only had the one failure, but you've replayed it 50 times. So your body feels like you've had 51 failures. Okay. Let's see the questions in here. Box breathing, check in. So when we initially start doing the nervous system regulation exercises, our body might, so remember that your survival mode, it's because your body like genuinely feels like, there's something wrong, something's bad is happening, etc. And so if you are just starting regulating yourself, and you're in a stressful season in life, well, then your body might have a little bit of a reaction to regulating, right? And so coming back to I'm safe, reminding yourself that, feeling into what safe feels like can help. Will reframing the situation help relieve those? So yeah, that's where we kind of talked yesterday about like redefining, right? Yesterday we talked about redefining like entrepreneurhood and things like, and mother, what that means for us. We can also reframe the situations of looking at, like when I lived in Australia for 8 years. I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into a conglomerate of businesses that I owned with a couple other people for about 5 years. And then in 2017, they forced me out. My best friend, business partner, who is also highly narcissistic, convinced everybody else on the board to force me out. So I was forced to resign from the companies that I had built, poured my blood, sweat, and tears into, which meant I lost my work visa in Australia. So I had to move back to Canada, got back with like $3,000 to my name, right? Now, I could look at that and be like, oh, that was such a failure, such a horrible time. But I can also see that that led me to starting my coaching business, because while I had that conglomerate of businesses, I loved coaching, but I didn't believe at that time that I could make a full-time income from coaching. I It was just like a hobby side hustle thing that I did for fun on the side. And I didn't even go as deep into my healing as I could have during that time. It also led me to finding Sid, right? The person who ultimately connected me with Sid ended up being a horrible human being that led to a former mentor publicly slandering us. And that was not a great season in life, but I can still reframe that situation to be like, well, had I never met that person, I never would have met Sid, and I never would have Chad, and I wouldn't live in Tennessee, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. Right. So Steve Jobs said we can't connect the dots looking forward, but if we look back and say, you know what, that was a challenging season in life, but here's the tools that it gave me. It made me more resilient. It made me more, compassionate. It made me more this or that, right? Then that can help reframe it. Absolutely. And remembering, like, when I'm going through a challenging season in life now, I can look at, well, here's all the other times in the past where I've come out the other side when I didn't know how I would. And so that can help me reframe present situations as well. Okay. All right. Joy, do you have any questions from today's session?
Can't think of any questions right now. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I started watching the Start Here videos, but I'm really not caught up. And I just regret that I haven't been here the first 2 days. So I'm really enjoying what I saw so far.
Awesome. So when we finish, I don't know if you'll have time tonight, but I'll just show you. When you go into the community, if you go to classroom and then you go to this procrastination to profits live with this free tag, you'll find the day 1 and day 2 replays in there, so you can catch up on what we've talked about so far.
Okay, I plan
Okay.
to do that. I had a little interruption, but I definitely plan to do that. You came highly recommended, and I'm glad I'm here. Really glad.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Sam is amazing. We're super excited she's coming to our retreat in the fall, so we're super excited for that. So
Nice.
awesome. Michael and Hillary, any questions? I don't think you guys were on the main challenge session today, but any questions you have there?
Oh no, we've been in Doug's thing, so we've totally missed it this week.
You're okay.
And so no, Michael just said, "Hey, I think the VIP's on," and we hopped in to see what was going on
Awesome.
in
Well,
here to hear. So yeah.
awesome.
glad to
Anybody else have any questions about how they might apply what we've talked about so far this week to life?
Can I just say how frustrating it is to know? Hang on.
You're okay.
How much I have already healed. And then to see that there's still this big long ass road in front of me that I didn't think was there. I thought I probably am farther along than I realize I am. And I really do know that I'll be on this healing journey for the rest of my life. I really do know that. But I really felt like I was done. So damn it, girl.
I know. It's a little bit deceiving. I too thought so. My healing journey really started when I was in Australia. I had been dating somebody for 3 years. We had just put in an offer on a block of land. He told me he had been saving for a ring. He went away for a job interview. I dropped him off at the airport, came back home, took a pregnancy test, found out I was pregnant. And then within like 24 hours of that, I found out he wasn't really at a job interview. He was with his girlfriend in another state. My entire life collapsed in the weeks that followed. I ended up having a miscarriage, and just found out he was a compulsive liar. Life collapsed, was suicidal, etc. That's what kicked off my healing journey. And I genuinely thought that when I jumped in the rabbit hole of healing, I definitely won for sure. Yes, Richard, I agree. When I jumped in that rabbit hole of healing, I too thought I was going to come out the other side healed and shiny and be totally fine. But it is definitely a process of like peeling an onion, layer by layer. We'll have times where we're not doing as much healing, and then we have times where we need to go back in and things come up, and then, it's this little cha-cha dance that we do. So I'm proud of you for all the healing that you've done. And, like I said to Dusty, celebrate what you have done, because a lot of times we look at what's to come and we're like, oh my God, I still have so far to go, but we've come a long way too.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah, this is I love what she just shared, because Mary, what you just shared, because there's actually this scripture, Philippians 1:6, it says that my God who began this good work in you shall accomplish it, shall fulfill it, shall complete it until the day of Christ Jesus. That tells me there's construction tape somewhere all the time. And
Yeah.
so it actually gives me hope, because I never have to be stuck where I am. I always get to look forward to new versions of myself, new levels of capacity and impact and experience and relationships. That excites me. Otherwise, I'd be like, this can't be it, which is where a lot of us get stuck. So
Yeah.
I love that revelation that we're just not done till it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any other questions? I'm just going to see. There was somebody I know that's coming for the bonus session. All right. Any other questions? Any other comments about how to apply this to your life? What we've talked about so far? Go ahead, Joy.
Question.
Good. Now I can hear you.
I have a question. Um, I'm familiar with the fight and flight. I haven't really seen it in a bell curve exactly like that, like you described it. And I don't want to be in fight, and I don't want to be in flight, and I don't want to be a fawn. I want to have a good balance of that. But is that socially acceptable, or whatever the bottom layer? Is that really the goal, though?
So the goal is not, and I had shared this yesterday as well. The goal is not to be always regulated, right? We want to be able to access our survival system when it's appropriate. The challenge is if you think of your nervous system like a container, right? And you've got trauma from childhood, and you've got limiting beliefs, and you've got other emotional baggage, and you've got negative self-talk, and then you've got daily life stuff, right? The more full your container is, the less capacity you have to process day-to-day stuff that's happening. The more full this is, the more likely you are to process a kid screaming as a threat, right? Do you have kids, Joy?
He's grown with kids of his own and doesn't live near me.
So you understand the
I have a
toddler
child,
phase,
yes, I
right?
have.
So you'll know that, when your son was growing up, there was days where him playing loudly with his cars didn't bother you. And then there were days where it was like grating on your last nerve and you were about to like blow your top, right? There are days when my son can be all over me and I'm totally fine. And then there are days where I'm so touched out that I'm like, please don't touch me, right? Like I need a break. So the days when I'm touched out, or when we feel like we're about to blow our top, capacity, like we don't have any extra capacity, right? So the goal is not to, so then what happens in those situations is like our nervous system is like, him touching me equals the bear chasing me. That is the same thing in this situation, even though logically we know it's not, right? The more in our survival mode system we are, the less likely, the less ability we have to access our logic and reason. So what we want to do, and I said this yesterday, the goal is not to have your container completely empty, right? Like we just said, we're always going to have stuff to process and peel back and heal through. But the goal is to have enough capacity in your container that you can look at day-to-day situations and say, is this actually a threat? Do I need to become so overwhelmed by this that I shut down? Or do I need to step back and think my way through it? Right? So we have more resilience, we have more creativity, we have more innovation when we have capacity and space in our container to process. So it's not always about 100% of the time being in your social engagement system.
Social engagement, okay.
Yeah, but it's about being able to not get pushed into your fight, flight, freeze, fawn by fairly trivial things, right? Like, for example, some people go into a full-on survival mode response if they were to post on social media and somebody left a hateful comment, right? There was the one person in the main session who said, sometimes I even feel like stressed about liking some of your content that kind of pushes the edge, right? Because they're worried about the consequences of that. Whereas, and there was a point in time in my life where I was like, oh, I can't post this. This is going to trigger some people and they're going to come at me and I'm going to get comments. And now I'm like, if somebody wants to be really hateful on you don't have to agree with everything I post, right? And if you want to have a conversation, that's why I post the things I do, is to spur conversation. But if you have to automatically go to like calling me names or calling me ugly. So Twitter is my non-business social media account. It's the only account that I don't constantly talk social media. It's my sports talking shit account, right? I used to work in sports for 20 years. I love and I know that this is not very trauma informed, but I love like the little banter between fan bases and things, especially rivalries, right? I love that. I grew up in Canada. Hockey trash talk is like Carrie knows, right? It's like, it's just, I love hearing what people come up with. But on Twitter, when I post things, sometimes there's a lot of unhealed, highly dysregulated people who are like, yeah, well, you're ugly, right? And or somebody told me the other day how stupid I was. Like if I was in my survival system, I would have been like super offended and that would have like played on my mind all day, right? Whereas now I'm like, bro, I don't even have to respond. Like if all you've got is I'm ugly, then okay, like not looking to date you anyways, right? So that's what the goal is to have the flexibility within our system, the capacity and the space to be able to say, is this actually a threat for me? Or, do I really need to be worried about this? Or is this like somebody else having a bad day? Somebody else doesn't enjoy their life and they're trying to tear me down to their level. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
It does make sense, but I was interpreting it as social engagement is what we're all striving for. And I think what I'm hearing now is the comfort of having social engagement and having the capacity to have good, healthy social engagement is what we're striving for. But it doesn't have to be a lot more social engagement. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So we ideally want to be able to shift and move between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic when needed, right? Most people live their entire life in social engagement or not in the sympathetic nervous system, which is survival mode, right? I'll come to you in a second, Richard, which then it's like, well, now everything is a threat and I have to constantly be hypervigilant and I'm constantly on high alert. We want to be able to move between the two because when you're in sympathetic nervous system, it's harder for you to digest your food properly. It's harder for you to get quality rest. Your body cannot heal itself in that state, right? It's harder to access things like gratitude and self-love and calm and peace and be present in the moment. Because when you're in survival mode, you're thinking about what's the next thing I need to do to survive now? What's the next thing that could go wrong that I need to be prepared for? Right. So when people are like, I would just love to be able to just like shut off and go on vacation or rest or not like constantly be in a hypervigilant state, what they're wanting is that parasympathetic mode. So we want to be able to activate survival when needed. You know, if there's like an actual threat happening, and then be able to move back into parasympathetic when it's appropriate too. Okay. Go ahead, Richard.
Oh, yeah, that's along the lines that you were just discussing. That is that we have control over our responses, that we learn not to be dysregulated, and then we learn to handle the problems that will occur. People will piss you off, but you don't have to go crazy. You have a means of handling that emotional discord so
Yeah.
that you're doing things by intent, by intention, as opposed to having your emotions, quote, run away with you.
Yeah. So it's more like when you're in your parasympathetic nervous system, you have more control over your life, right? You in NLP, we call it you being at cause. Like I'm choosing how I'm going to respond here. Somebody might say something mean to me, but I don't have to let it trigger me into a spiral. Where most people, they live their life at effect. Their day is only as good as what's going on in their environment, right? So if they spill their coffee, their whole day is ruined. If they stub their toe, their whole day is ruined. If somebody says something mean to them on social media, their whole day is ruined.
Yeah. So you divide, and then you're able to devise a means of handling
Yeah,
these disruptions whenever they occur. So
absolutely.
thank you for your input. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Hillary.
This is so cool because I heard have you heard of Dr. Zach Bush?
No.
Okay. Young guy, super cool. He's a young MD and was completely disillusioned with what the medical system was actually doing and then just went deep into faith, deep into truth, deep into science. And he was saying like we're light, we're constantly regenerating. But what happens is our memory lasts longer than our moment by moment regeneration. And so it kind of carries over and connects.
Yeah.
So I always think about, if we're responsible, it means I am able to choose my response.
Yeah.
And so if I'm able to choose my response, I get, it's empowerment to be patient with ourselves and with others. Like patience is permission. What do you want to do about that now? And then that permission is empowerment. So like, I don't have to be attached to the way I have always thought about you, always responded to you, always been triggered by you. I actually get to choose who I want to be right now. That's why patience is the first characteristic of love. Like, it's just permission to be empowered to choose how you want to respond this time. And so I love this kind of conversation because my history doesn't have to define me any longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So we're going to take a